Hello, my name is Camila Anderson. I am a senior majoring in government and international politics at George Mason University. This semester, I'm an intern with Democracy on Air and a fellow with the Global Politics program at George Mason. I will be your host for today's Aircast. Our sponsors this afternoon are Democracy on Air, a nonpartisan nonprofit that supports the U.S. On Air network of 50 governance and election hubs, and students on air at George Mason University, where your voice matters on air. Today, we will be interviewing Heidi Drauschak, who is a candidate from Springfield, Virginia, running for State Senate District 35. Heidi, do you think you could tell us a bit more about yourself? What's your experience with politics, and how did you decide to run for the Senate?
Yeah, sure. Thank you guys so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the chance to get on and speak. So to give a little context, like you said, I am running an SD 35, which is one of the new state Senate districts here in Northern Virginia that makes up Springfield, West Springfield, Annandale, and the surrounding areas, and does include a majority of the GMU campus. I myself, so to give you a little bit of background, I started my career in politics about over a decade ago in federal politics. I worked in the Obama White House and then came to Virginia in 2015 to go to the University of Richmond, where I got my MBA and my law degree. Then got into state politics. Virginia state politics are a wild, wild place to be. It's very small. It's very personal. I fell in love with it because one person can really make a difference. But it unfortunately is kind of the wild, wild west in a lot of ways. We are one of the only states that still has no campaign contribution limits. We have one of the shortest legislative sessions in the country. We unfortunately do things a lot. We still do things, a lot of things today that we did 250 or even 400 years ago. So the deeper I got involved in politics, the more I kind of realized how many systemic reforms we needed to make here in Virginia to make sure that our government was actually representative of the people that it was meant to govern. And so for the last several years, I've worked with nonprofits, with civic organizations, with volunteer organizations to see a lot of these changes and push for a lot of these changes. Unfortunately, in a lot of ways to no avail. So we've had several years where we've had almost no success on any issues whatsoever. And so this year, well, I made the decision last year, but this year, again, happy to get into it, but with all of the new district lines being drawn and a bunch of new seats being available, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and try and change things from the inside. So that is why I'm running. On a personal note, I live in Springfield with my husband and our dogs and our cat. And I have a son on the way, so he's outside of camera, but I'm about 8 months pregnant. And honestly, a lot of it is to build the community that I want to raise him in. Virginia has made progress on a lot of issues in the past couple of years, but I don't think nearly as much as a lot of us want to see. And so I decided to run and, like I said, hopefully build the community that I want to raise him in. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing.
Hi, Heidi. It's a pleasure to be here. I think Camilla was referring to George Mason students also have a lobby day where student government goes to Richmond to lobby the government for funding and for George Mason's interests in general. You mentioned ranked choice voting briefly in as one of the reforms that is being looked at in Virginia. I was wondering if you could talk more about that.
Yeah, of course. And I will also just say, if you've gone, thank you for lobbying your legislature. Like I said, Virginia, but all state legislatures are very small, and one person talking to your legislature can really make a difference. So anybody listening, or also for the two of you, I really commend that and would say, even if you can just go down for a couple of hours or for a day, it's wonderful when people can actually participate in the legislative process. But moving on to ranked choice voting. So ranked choice voting, the idea, most of you are probably familiar, but just to kind of set the stage, is pretty simple. It basically says instead of going to your voting place on election day and choosing one candidate or another, Ranked choice voting would allow you to rank your choices. And so, if you had 5 candidates on the ballot, instead of choosing one, you would say, okay, my top choice is candidate B, but if B doesn't win, then I'd like C. And if C doesn't win, I'd like E, so on and so forth. The proponents or the argument behind ranked choice voting, and there are a lot, but a couple of the key reasons that I support ranked choice voting, and I think a lot of the advocates for it support it, are that it allows for many more candidates to compete in elections. So right now, third-party candidates, independent candidates, lesser known candidates, minority candidates sometimes can have a really hard time winning elections because people basically say, I don't want to vote for them because it's a throwaway vote. And so they will vote for somebody who they actually prefer a little bit less because they think they're the likely contender. So the argument behind ranked choice voting is that you can vote for who you really want to vote for without jeopardizing, saying like, well, my second choice might lose if I give my vote to this preferred person, because basically what happens is if your preferred candidate gets knocked out of the race, your vote immediately drops down to your second choice. And so then you'd guarantee that, they have your vote.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think in the future, hopefully, George Mason students will really appreciate that support from you and, of course, other legislators. Stella, do you have any further questions or?
No, I think I'm good. This was really, really informative, and I would like to thank you so much. I definitely learned a lot about the intricacies of Virginia politics today that I didn't fully realize.
Good. Well, that's like I said, hopefully I didn't go too much into the nuance, but that's my favorite part about all of this. And I will just say as one extra thing, just so everybody's aware, there are no federal elections this year, but there are state elections this year. So for those of you that are registered in Virginia, whether it be in this locality or anywhere across the Commonwealth, it's going to be a huge year for elections. Everything's on the ballot: your state senator, your House of Delegates member, county clerk, school board members, supervisor members. So even though I know it's tempting for all of us to kind of skip this year because it's an off year, for those of you that are interested in this kind of stuff, it just takes a couple of hours out of your year. Get engaged, make sure you're registered to vote, figure out where your polling place is. We will have primaries on June 20th. Early voting starts as early as May 6th. So for those of you that maybe are registered on campus, you can actually vote before you even leave campus. And of course, general elections are in November. So just want to do that plug because, like I said, it will be a very big year and there's going to be very real effects in who gets elected this year. So, like I said, make sure you're registered to vote and know who's on your ballot.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that very important reminder. And thank you so much. I agree with Stella. I learned so much about Virginia politics and things I never even thought about that are just so important to the process. And thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks again for having me.